I'm Fiona Wee-Wormsley and I'm from the Kiama Farmers Market, which we started in February this year. So we haven't been going a year yet, and we're really happy with how it's going. It's made a big difference to the livelihoods of lots of local producers. It's very exciting. So Buena Vista Farm is a family farm in Gerringong, which is about 10 minutes south of Kiama, and I came back to the farm about 3 years ago with the idea that we would run a small, mixed, sustainable farm. One of the big things that we do is we run classes on the farm, mainly cooking classes, and those classes are where people come and learn how to make things like sourdough and pickles and jam, yogurt, things that are items that everybody used to make themselves that tend to have forgotten how to make, and they like to be reminded, so that's what we do. We were really surprised, I was very surprised when I came back to Kiama and there wasn't a farmers market in the area. I'd had great farmers markets in Brisbane and in Sydney, where I lived previously, even in London, but there wasn't a farmers market here, and there were so many producers right here. It seemed very odd. It was really frustrating because we couldn't actually buy the produce from the area. We had to, it was leaving the area and then coming back via distributors. Very strange. So we're very excited to get together with a few producers and makers and a cafe owner and a tourism manager, and we got together and started this farmers market, which was really a sales opportunity for local producers, and it's made a huge difference, I think, for lots of the smaller makers and producers along here.
So this market basically started, a group of farmers and makers sort of been talking about it for quite a while, about why there isn't more of a food presence in this area. It really should be a food bowl. We're so close to Sydney, and we all got together. We all sort of had a bit of interest in food. So we did a road trip down to Moruya last September, actually. So they have a market called Sage on a Tuesday afternoon in Moruya. We went down there, had a wonderful time, and thought we had to take this back to Kiama. We'd already started the ball rolling with Kiama Council, and fortuitously on the way back, actually in the car, they rang to say yes, we would be able to go ahead and do a market. So then we had the process to actually contact farmers and get hold of all the producers. And I guess the challenge was that a lot of people weren't growing anymore, or they had other distribution means, so we had to get them on board to sell directly. And I think people are a bit sceptical at first when they do a market. Is it going to work? So eventually it all came together, and we launched this year on the 5th of February. And we've run every Wednesday since. We had to miss one market because of terrible weather, but pretty much we've run every Wednesday. And the response has been overwhelming. The community has really embraced that they can actually come down, talk to their farmer, talk to their maker, buy their food directly. And the fact that it's weekly, it gets into people's habits, it gets into their psyche. Whereas if you do something on a monthly basis, such as say the Kiama Produce Market, it tends to be more of a nice thing to do, but before you know it, the kids have got football and then you got a trip and you forget about it till next month. So it's not the same habit forming type of market, whereas this, we see lots of regulars week in, week out, all doing their shopping, trying things that are in season, talking to people about where the food came from, how it was grown. So it's been a really an amazing experience to have all this sort of evolve. Probably we've got, I'd say, close to 60 producers and makers on our books at the moment, and they don't all come at the same time. Some of them are seasonal, some come monthly, some come weekly, but generally speaking we're sort of around about the 30 to 35 stalls a week now. And the good thing is you can come down and find your sourdough bread, you can get something to eat, the kids can play on the beach, you can have a coffee and catch up, and it's a really social environment. So we're thrilled with it. We just think it's amazing, and we'll move on to bigger and bigger things for 2015.
That we have a free-range piggery in Narra Hill, New South Wales. We have 17 sows and a boar, and about 60 pigs on the ground at various growth stages. The produce markets actually launched our business, and we want to stay local as much as we can, so we do a berry market and a kiama market. We have had a lot of interest from Sydney, but we'd rather stay local. It means a lot to us to have a produce market like this, so that we can actually sell to the local public, and a lot of them haven't experienced true free-range produce, so it's very rewarding to achieve that. With the fact that we've got the markets working for us, it's very important to look back that over the time that markets were the only way that you could purchase goods. And I think that it's becoming more necessary now to go back and start from the beginning and actually heal all of the supermarkets, the wounds that they have left on various people and producers. So hopefully in the future we'll be able to maintain our bacon and ham and our pork products and have them available to the local public, more so than having a commercial business that goes outside of the Shoalhaven. It's also very important to understand that we always used to eat in season, and we now are importing goods from all over the world just to have a rock melon in the middle of winter. We also need to educate people that is really the right way to eat, is to graze on seasonal berries and fruit. I don't want to sound like too aggressive about that issue, but it is important, and I think that is where the producers and the farmers should become hand in hand and work together in producing that outcome.
We love these markets because we can buy fresh food, and it supplements the fresh food we grow from home, and it's great really to see the community gathering and participating in good food grown locally.
I particularly like to have something that has a small footprint, and anything grown locally has exactly that. And we love our local, supporting our local dairy industry in particular.
We're certified by Ausqual, and we have a niche in the market at the moment because we're the only organic grower in the Illawarra. Basically we just grow produce which is seasonal only, so we don't have a large range of produce. It's just what we can grow at the time. In being in that niche market that we're in, we are more expensive, but we find that people are willing to spend that extra money simply because of they're interested in what they're eating these days and in what substances are used to make that produce grow. Probably ship close to about 1.5 tonnes of produce every week up to Sydney. We'd love for the bulk of that stuff to be assimilated within the Illawarra region, but it's only a very small minority of people that are willing to spend that extra money, really. And there is a big difference between a commercial price and an organic price.
We're Kiama locals. We come down to the farmers markets every week. We like that it's a bit of a social event, and it's good for the community, and the food's always really fresh and vegetables are really good.
And I really like the fact that we're buying from the primary producers. It's with no middleman. I find the products we buy here last a lot longer than products we buy in the supermarket, and it's always so fresh. And yeah, it's a lovely outing as well. It's really nice seeing all the families and that down here as well.
Getting the best compost available, which is nutrients for the mushroom, and it can come from different areas on a monthly basis, depending on the rain content, the wax content. So we're basically using the best compost. Our peat moss, which is the layer on top of our beds, comes all the way from Holland, also organic. And that allows us to grow a very, very good gourmet products, which we take to 5 farmers markets every week. And we also serve the whole South Coast, restaurants, cafes, participating IGAs with our business. And it's growing at a small rate, but we prefer to only grow a small amount compared to most mushroom farms. We only produce 1 tonne a week, where most mushroom farms are like 10, 50, 100 tonne mass production. The quality goes out the window when it's like that. So we're picking mushrooms Wednesday morning and bring them here in a Wednesday afternoon market. That's how fresh they are. People tell me they last 2 weeks in their fridge. Yeah, well, a lot of people like to talk to the grower. They like to find out about our farm, our ingredients, how we grow it, what we grow it in. my farm is, I have 8 growing rooms, for instance. They're temperature controlled, humidity controlled, CO2 controlled, and that way we, basically grow the perfect product. They're wanting to know, what we do with, our spent compost, for example, and can they get it for their garden to grow vegetables, which is great. It's important that you have a relationship with the customer and explain to them and ask all the questions about the produce, how we grow it, and that's why they come back next week.
Is because I used to be in the food industry at an artisan level, and I hate the way that the general food that's available for the public has travelled thousands of miles to get to the consumer, and that generally speaking it's coming from factory farming methods. Ultimately what this means to the consumer is that compared to, let's say, 50 years ago, various studies tell us that the food that we actually generally eat is somewhere between 30 and in some cases 70% less in nutritional value that the same food offered us 50 odd years ago.
Everybody that I know has fruit trees and veggie gardens, and they've got so much produce that they don't know what to do with, and they're just giving away all the time. So I thought, oh well, I'll just turn it into something. Coming down to the farmers market is really fantastic. You meet lots of great people, and people like to know where their stuff has come from. I think a lot of people, they like meeting the grower, or they like meeting the person who makes it, and they like asking, has this got this in it? Especially now there's so many food intolerances, they like to know that things haven't been sprayed and they're pesticide free, and whether there's lots of sugar, or if they're diabetic, or whatever their particular food need is. I think they like to talk to someone who's made it. So, and they like to get that first, and they like to try before they buy. It's fantastic, and you meet so many great people, and people come and they say, oh, I've got this, all these blood oranges, do you want them? And so there's not wastage as well. Fruit is just rotting on trees, and you see those dreadful pictures on like A Current Affair where they're pushing over bulldozers all this fruit, and to see that someone's using it, and I think is great. Well, the great thing about being here at the Kiama Farmers Market is that you meet loads of people, but this is where I mainly sell most of my jams and produce, but I also sell at the berry markets. But through the Kiama markets, I've met like Kel from the Pines, who now buys my jam to put through his gelato, and it's given me lots of opportunities to meet other people and find other sources of supply, and to get advice from other stallholders about how they make stuff, and how I can better my product as well. So it's a real little, market stallholders community.
So it makes a big difference financially if a producer can sell direct to a customer, because what that means is that they get the entire dollar of the value of their food rather than a small proportion of the dollar, and then some of the dollar goes to a middle person, and then to a wholesaler or to a distributor. That makes a big difference, and particularly if your margins are pretty low, which they often are on veggies and even dairy products. So that has actually really changed a lot of businesses around here. If you actually give people the opportunity to sell directly, then they can grow their business, which is great and good for the area and good for the producer and good for the consumers.